So I'm working with air quality, and I wasn't sure whether this is a topic I could bring to South Africa or not. So first question to the audience, has anybody ever thought about air quality, pollution, in-house, outside? Is that a topic in South Africa? Yeah. I would hope it's becoming a topic. I do see there's a lot of discussions where I'm coming from. So I actually wanted to share a bit of the information that I've collected with you and would love to get your feedback. Don't hesitate to ask questions in between the meeting. We're late anyhow, so I'm happy that I don't have a deadline. But of course, I'll try to keep it short. The topic is extremely complex, so there's no way that I can explain everything or I can give you a nice run through without sharing a number of slides. But let's start. Why do we do this as Geotab? Not because we are experts in chemistry or anything like this, but we are collecting data, and this is just one of those areas. You can collect tons of data that at the end of the day help you to take decisions. And that's what this is about. And the good thing is that this is a cooperation project with universities. So that for me is also a very important part. And just to start with, you cannot eat, you cannot drink, and you will still survive for at least longer than a minute. But if you stop breathing, forget it. And if you continue breathing bad air, sooner or later it will catch you as well. Whether you're a smoker or not, doesn't really matter. Some people are more on the lucky side, some people are more on the unlucky side. Where does air pollution come from? Just took a few pictures. Maybe you can see them. Of course, industry in the 70s, 80s was a big polluter. Then ships, believe it or not, they do create a problem, but they don't belong to the local transport, so we can't talk about them. And maybe the picture beneath, some of you might know where this has been taken. That's one of the pictures I took. I've been working in Nigeria, in Lagos, and this is how it sometimes looks on the street. So really interesting in that context. Air pollution, there are studies, the figures vary. At the end of the day, it doesn't really matter. There's a certain calculation that air pollution kind of contributes to 400,000 premature deaths every year in the European area. Believe that. 400,000. So 400,000 people, that's according to my information 10 times more than being killed by road accidents. If this figure is true, then this is definitely something that we all have to take care about. What is air pollution? Just to give you two values which are relevant in the current discussion, it's the so-called PM value, which is the particle matter. And this is pollution created when you are simply driving on the road, whether it's an electric vehicle or a combustion engine. Doesn't really matter. Does anybody know where this particle matter would come from? Not only from the fuel, but from the tires. So the friction between the tires and the road create particle matter. Yeah? And the size of the particle matter, you can compare it with a human hair. It's quite interesting. There are also here different values. We have PM2.5 and PM10, which are in the discussion. So that's one part. And the other part is the nitrogen oxygen, or the dioxide, the NO2 value. And all this kind of has led to the fact that OEMs like VW were running into the diesel scandal in 2015, and since then many things have happened. Yeah. How do we collect air quality? And again, imagine this is my way of introducing the topic in order to come to the very end, where it says this is what we could take a decision upon, right? So taking the country I'm coming from, Germany, kind of 80 million people, stretched from north to south, 900 kilometers, depending on where you are. We have 500 measurement stations to collect data on air quality. And in the city I'm living in, Aachen, which is 250,000 people, very small, we have exactly 2. And those measuring stations have a distance of between 7 or 8 kilometers each. So one measuring station is collecting data that is kind of relevant for a diameter of up to 8 kilometers. Do you believe if somebody smokes on the other side of the room that you're impacted in this room? If you're an extreme non-smoker, yes, but it's not. So, as a matter of fact, air quality is a very hyper-local, I love this term, thingy. So if I'm here and you're kind of 30, 40, 50 meters away, there could already be a difference. So the network that has been established some 20 years ago to evaluate air quality was good to show the long-term effects of reduced pollution with regards to smog, etc., but is not good enough anymore in today's discussion to really come down to the nitty-gritty details of air quality with regards to city planning or anything that requires a bit of a higher granularity. Yeah? So, still there? Yeah. So this is a typical of these container, one of those 400, 500 containers. I was trying to figure out if there's anything similar in Joburg. I haven't found it. They do talk about air quality as well, but I don't think they use these containers yet. On the container you see, look like antennas. At the end of the day it's filters, they're sucking in the air, and for the different type of value they have different filters. No? Such a container is about 700,000 euro. So creating a mobile, more granular network by just investing money in these containers is not going to happen either. Important is, to compare air quality, you have to measure it above street level, 1.5 to 4 meters. That is the frame that has been arranged for and has been agreed for. And now we become creative. Not sure if anybody has ever seen that, but that's a 35-meter building, and on top of the building they put the sensor. So the air quality they measure. This is Athens in Greece, where they then, of course, decide, okay, the air quality is good enough or not good enough. But if nobody knows that it's completely wrong to measure air quality on such a level above street, then, of course, nobody will doubt that these results are correct. A few info about public views, maybe the legal frame, and where it all comes from, and I'm pretty sure you are familiar with that. It all comes down to the United Nations, then there was the Kyoto Protocol, and then there's the Paris treatment, and all those together are being followed up and create the legal framework that's necessary. Then, of course, also nowadays in the mindset of the public, there's a lot of concern about the environment and about air quality. And that has to be tackled now. So there are actually very strict plans for the next 20 to 30 years. And the next package comes into place now, next year, in 2020. The frame from 2000 to 2030 is already created, and the strategy for 2050 has already been described. Why am I saying that? Because this has a very big impact on why OEMs release electric vehicles nowadays. And we're talking about electric vehicles later on this afternoon in the other presentation. What are the tools? The tools for the European community, etc., is a so-called trading system right now. And also here you can have different topics or opinions, whether this is a good tool or not a good tool, but at the end of the day it's about budget. I have a CO2 budget, for instance, or an emission budget, and I'm allowed to spend it. And if I'm rich enough, I buy additional budget, as long as the frame or as long as the laws allow me to do that. And that will continue to lead to more creative ideas. I'm strongly believe in that. Nevertheless, if you look back, the 90s, when I grew up, it was terrible sometimes, and nowadays at least the figures say that there has been a great improvement already. And you have shown this with accident prevention also. It doesn't mean that less cars create less accidents. Also here, less population or less economy doesn't mean that it creates less pollution, or the other way around. Nevertheless, are we good? Are these values good enough? And my understanding is no, that's not. Few items that I just collected. 2015, the diesel scandal started. And 2017 and 18, a lot of things happened, but only in 2018, really, initiatives were kicked off. And in Germany, and this is what Germany is good at, they decide you're not allowed to drive into my city anymore, because I want to guarantee clean air. And how do I do that? Well, I prevent the old cars entering the cities. Then I found that interesting, and I'm not sure if he's still in jail or not, but the Audi CEO, really somebody with a bit of connections, I'd say, was arrested when he was in America. Then other courts, local courts in Germany, started to ban cities or to ask cities to stop traffic for certain cars. And nothing happened since then, because cities do not have the tools yet to either direct the traffic or to control that vehicles are not allowed to enter the cities. Sure. Yep. No, correct. And then, of course, a few more interesting things started to happen across Europe. You see, for sure, in London, you know about the congestion zone or the ultra-low emission zones. Also, other countries have started to really push forward. My son has recently been traveling to the north of Italy, and he complained, "Hey, Dad, I can't go into any city anymore." All the cities prevent traffic from entering these cities. Good idea. But you have to know it. Then there was this team of professional medicals, lung doctors, who started to kind of doubt that all the threshold values for air pollution are relevant or not. Maybe they have a point, but the result was that 80 million people in Germany started to question what the heck is going on. Since 10 years, we have been learning that the emission values are too high, that the air quality has been improving, has to be improved, etc. And now you tell us that's not correct. You wonder why they released this statement at a certain amount of time before an election happened. But again, that's rumor. But it's good, kind of just showing that this topic is extremely sensitive and has a lot of dynamics, and a lot of people start talking about it. A lot of initiatives have started, and the red line is not visible yet. But sooner or later it will come, and we strongly believe that the Geotab data, or the way we look at data, all partners, Geotab, customers, that this is crucial, and that this is definitely an area you could look into. Just then we go on. So this is the city of Hamburg. And the city of Hamburg actually introduced the traffic restriction for those two streets. You can see them colored, so you're not allowed to drive in these two areas. What you should know is that this is a river. This is a very important river. City of Hamburg is a city with ships, loading ships, really big loading ships. So if you look from here onto the streets, that's what you would see. If you look from the streets onto the river, that's what you would see. Theoretically again, yeah. And you see the black smoke? That's definitely not in line. Now, if that happens 200 meters away from the street that has been banned for diesel traffic, will the people who live there really be able to understand this decision from the city council? Most probably not. So, and that's maybe, Russell, if you use my rucksack, I have the box in there, maybe you just want to give it a round. So with the university, we have actually started to do something which we thought might be a nice marketing gag for Geotab. So we were thinking, can we actually create a sensor? Can we hook up such a sensor into the Geotab environment and reuse fleets and create mobile? You can open it, yes, please. Just pull it up. Can we reuse fleets and can we kind of get the data that all of us might be waiting for without too much of an issue? No? So we started this and we're still there. We have the ideas. We would like to figure out how much would a sensor cost if you want to create certain values that are maybe from a quality point of view not comparable with the 700K measuring station, but maybe showing trend lines that allow us to at least observe how it's behaving. So the first results, and this is what you will find in there, a temperature sensor and air pressure and humidity, a particle measurement sensor, and an NO2 sensor. Yeah? So these three values that two values we discussed before. And we started, we have two phases, or two threads. The first thread is the stationary one. So we actually located this sensor that you see next to the measuring station in Aachen. And we enhanced it with another 1 or 2 devices. And last month, we actually managed, for the first time, to collect data, which we compared. And then you see 3 different colors, maybe a bit difficult. The light blue is the green, sorry, is the professional sensor. Yeah. And then the light blue and the dark blue are 2 of those sensors. Yeah. And what you can see is definitely that the quality, the levels of data, whether you pass the threshold or not, we cannot guarantee that. But what we can see, and I hope you agree, that the trend lines overall do show some promising first results. Now that's stationary, and maybe stationary is a piece of cake, because mobile will be different. Mobile, you will have impacts due to wind, due to rain, due to other things which we don't really understand yet. But nevertheless, we have started installing sensors already, and we're using a bus fleet because we believe buses are actually covering a nice geographical area within a city. And we believe that with the amount of 13 to 15 of these sensors, we can cover up to 60–70% of the whole city. And then we would have a nice add-on with some hyper-local data towards the professional air sensors. The good thing is the professional air sensors have open data sets, so you can download these data sets once a day, once a month, and you can actually start integrating those. So, then coming to the end, what can we do with this? I guess you can do a lot. Maybe for the kids, maybe for anything in the environment, but of course here we have the professional aspect as well. So with the university, we're now looking into certain use cases, and this falls under the umbrella smart cities, heavily under the umbrella of smart cities. And 3 use cases I want to show you. First, maybe the most obvious, a routing app. Yeah, so I don't want to be routed according to the quickest or the kind of whatever. I want to be routed according to the best air quality. And that has to be a dynamic routing, because if I reroute cars from A to B, then for sure the quality on B will sooner or later deteriorate depending on the vehicles. But that is actually something where already a few companies have started to look into. And for us it would be nice, because we can actually address cities, interested city councils. We could even think about creation of an algorithm to forecast some air quality. Because if we have more data, if we understand how cities behave over the years, if we use this in some sort of a machine learning algorithm to create some patterns, or to figure out if there are patterns, we can also forecast it. As I said, temperature, winter, summer, rain or no rain, wind or no wind, they have a tremendous impact. We get all this information from or some of the information we get already today out of the vehicles. Other information we add via these sensors. We can combine them, and then we have the result. Urban planning is definitely something that's going to happen. I'm not sure if you have seen pictures of cities where you actually have hot areas due to the impact that too many buildings have been erected in the last 20 years, and there is no normal cooling anymore, or no natural cooling anymore within cities. So cities have started to realize this, and they start to actually think about what they can do. For instance, adding a green line through the city, or opening the city to a certain extent. So also with this approach, you will definitely find interested ears and areas to look into that. You can classify city areas, good, bad quality. That's of course not nice, but at the end of the day, that's what the data gives you. You can make decisions on where you approach the next whatever kind of building. And the last one is, of course, I call it the advanced decision-making support, using the same picture as before. Where would we really like to have good air? I mean, for me, I'm an old man. For me, I might not care about too much, but for my grandkids or kids, wherever we have schools, kindergarten, playground, hospitals, all these sort of buildings, this is where I would like to at least ensure that the quality is as good as possible. There are thoughts about creating these CO2 budgets for individual cars. That's a much wider topic, we can't go into that, but imagine you know that you have 1,000 kilograms of CO2 to be spent for your year. How do you measure that, or how do you control that? Relatively simple with the telematics system. And then the cities could contribute, they could control if they need to, but at the end of the day, it's up to us to really work with the tools. I don't believe that somebody is going to tell me what I am allowed to do or not. I do believe, in my own opinion, that things have to get better. And the more people understand that, and you said it's all about education, we have to somehow visualize the data to make it simple for people to understand. If it's going to stay as complicated as it is right now, this is not going to fly. And that, of course, we already discussed. So, with this, I come to my last question. What do you think? What day of the year you might experience the highest particle matter concentration in the air? Any idea? Christmas Day, okay. And why Christmas Day? Not too far away. Any other idea? Yeah. Why? So obviously there have been some measurements done, and everybody says this is the highest concentration of PMs we have ever measured. So every year, maybe you want to stay away in the future. Thank you very much.